Lorado Mounthembu pressed her palms together and breathed out slowly as the elevator doors slid open. The hotel suite at the top of the glass tower looked nothing like anything she had ever stepped into. Everything gleamed: polished floors, tall windows showing the Cape Town harbor, the air heavy with the smell of expensive cologne and coffee. She had spent her last few rand on a taxi to get there. If she didn't get this job, she would have to sell her laptop by the weekend. "Miss Mounthembu," a man in a black suit asked. "Mr. Kong will see you now." Her heart jumped. She followed him into the conference room. A tall Korean man stood by the window, his back straight, his dark suit sharp enough to cut glass. Kong Min-ho didn't look like the photos she had seen online. In person, he was colder, quieter, his face unreadable, like a statue that might come alive if you looked long enough. He turned. "You are the interpreter." His accent was thick but his English smooth. "Yes, sir." Lorado forced her voice not to shake. "I speak Korean fluently." He studied her for a moment. "Good. Sit." She sat opposite him. There were folders spread out on the table, papers marked with both Korean and English writing. He passed one to her. "Translate this contract for me." Word by word, she bent her head and began to work. The words rolled off her tongue easily. She had spent years studying late at night with online videos. When she finished, he nodded once. "Your pronunciation is perfect," he said quietly. "You studied in Korea?" "No, sir, only online. And drama shows." She smiled nervously. His eyes softened, just a little. "Impressive." Before she could thank him, the door burst open. 3 men walked in, 2 local businessmen and a tall, bald man with gold chains around his neck. They looked rough, angry. Lorado could smell tension like smoke. "Mr. Kong," the bald man said, dropping into a chair without invitation, "we don't like strangers coming here and buying our docks." Min-ho didn't answer. He only gave a tiny nod to Lorado. "Translate." She swallowed hard and began in Korean, repeating the man's words. The room grew heavier with each sentence. The local man slammed his hand on the table. "If you think your money means power here, think again." Min-ho's jaw tightened. He spoke softly in Korean, a single sentence that made his 2 Korean bodyguards shift closer. Lorado's stomach twisted. She knew that tone. It was a warning. But she also knew that if she translated exactly what he said, "If you touch what's mine, you'll disappear by sunrise, someone might die tonight." She took a deep breath and changed his words. "Mr. Kong says he respects your business, and he wants peace between your companies." The local men glanced at one another, surprised. The bald man relaxed his shoulders. "Peace, huh, that's better. We can talk numbers." Min-ho's eyes flicked toward her, sharp as a knife. He knew she had changed the translation. But instead of anger, there was something else in his gaze: curiosity. The meeting ended calmly. The gangsters left, muttering to each other about profits. Lorado stood frozen until the door closed behind them. Only then did she breathe again. Min-ho turned toward her. "You changed my words." She nodded slowly. "If I had said exactly what you said, they would have shot someone." For a moment he said nothing. Then, to her shock, he smiled. It was small and dangerous but real. "You're bold. I'm practical," she replied, folding her arms. He stepped closer. "In my world, practicality is rare." His voice was low, almost gentle. "I need someone like you." Her chest tightened. "Someone to translate threats. Someone who understands when to stay silent," he said. "Come back tomorrow. You're hired. That night, Lorado returned to her tiny apartment in Woodstock with her head spinning. She had a job. A real one. But something about the man unsettled her. The way he watched everyone, the way people seemed afraid to breathe when he was near. Still, the pay was good. Too good to question. The next evening, a private car picked her up and took her to the docks for another meeting. Cold sea air bit through her thin coat. Men in black coats stood guard near the cargo containers. Lorado tried to stay close to Min-ho as they walked through the fog. He spoke softly. "You should not be here after dark." "You told me to come," she reminded him. "I did," he said. "But I did not promise it would be safe." His words made her shiver. When he looked down at her, she caught a flash of something beneath his shirt collar, a black ink mark curling over his skin. For a second the fabric shifted, revealing a tattoo of a coiled dragon surrounded by flames. She had seen that symbol before, in a news article about Korean organized crime. The Seoul dragon. Her mouth went dry. She looked up, but his expression was calm, unreadable. He caught her staring and simply buttoned his collar. "You saw nothing," he said quietly. "Of course," she whispered. The meeting that night was shorter. Men carried briefcases, spoke in code, exchanged envelopes. Lorado pretended to translate dull business terms, but she knew something darker was happening. She felt trapped in a movie she didn't understand. When it ended, Minho told her to wait by the car. "I will finish one last talk." She nodded, clutching her bag. He walked toward a warehouse, his guards following. The doors closed behind them. Minutes passed. The wind howled off the water. A gull screamed overhead. Lorado's phone had no signal. Curiosity burned inside her like fire. She moved closer to the warehouse and pressed her ear to the cold metal door. Muffled voices echoed inside, Korean words, harsh and angry. She could make out Minho's voice and another man's, heir, trembling. A slap, then a cry. She pushed the door slightly. It creaked open. Inside, yellow light spilled across the floor. Minho stood facing a man tied to a chair. Two guards held the man down. His face was bruised, blood ran from his nose. Lorado froze behind a stack of crates, barely breathing. Minho spoke quietly. "You sold our shipment. You gave information to the police." I didn't," the man shouted in Korean. "I swear." Minho stepped closer, his voice low. "Lies have prices." He pulled a gun from under his coat. The metal glinted in the light. Lorado's breath caught. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body wouldn't move. The man looked up, desperate. "Please, my family." A single shot cracked through the room. The echo bounced off the steel walls. The man fell sideways, the chair tipping over. Lorado clamped her hands over her mouth. Her heart hammered so loud she was sure they would hear it. The guards turned away, checking the exits. Minho stood still, his face expressionless, his gun hanging loosely in his hand. Then, slowly, the dying man lifted his head. Blood covered his lips, but his eyes searched the shadows, and found Lorado. He whispered one word, "Lorado." The voice sliced through her like lightning. She knew it instantly. No accent, no doubt. Her knees went weak. "No, it can't be." She stumbled out from behind the crates. "Themba," she gasped. Minho turned sharply, shock flashing across his face. "You shouldn't be here." She didn't hear him. She dropped to her knees beside the man. "Themba, look at me," she cried, shaking his shoulders. His eyes fluttered, unfocused, but they met hers for one long, breaking second. "Little sis," he whispered. Her hands trembled. "What did they do to you?" "What?" Before she could finish, his body went still. Lorado's cry filled the warehouse. The guards stepped back. Even Minho looked shaken. For a moment, time stopped, the smell of gunpowder, the echo of the shot, her tears falling onto the floor. Then Minho moved. He grabbed her arm. "We have to go." She tried to pull away. "You killed him. You." Her voice broke. "He was my brother." He froze, his hand still on her arm. The words hit him like a blade. "Your brother." She glared at him, her face streaked with tears. "Yes, Themba Mounthembu. He worked for the police." Minho's eyes darkened with realization. "He was the informant. You murdered him." She shouted. "Lorado, listen to me." He glanced toward the door. "They'll come back. We must leave now." She shook her head violently. "I'm not going anywhere with you." But he pulled her to her feet, his grip firm but not cruel. "If you stay, you die next." He half dragged her out of the warehouse as alarms began to echo in the distance. Somewhere, sirens wailed. The night swallowed them both. Dash dash dash. Outside, the air was cold and wet. Rain started to fall, mixing with the salt of her tears. Minho pushed her into the car and barked something in Korean to his driver. The vehicle sped off through the empty docks. Lorado sat shaking in the back seat, staring at her blood-stained hands. She could still hear her brother's voice. She could still see Minho's calm face as he pulled the trigger. Finally she whispered, "Why? Why did you kill him?" Minho turned toward her, his eyes unreadable. "He betrayed us," he said quietly. "And in my world, betrayal means death." She laughed bitterly, half sobbing. "In my world, it means you've lost your soul." Neither spoke again. The car drove into the rain, the city lights flashing across their faces, two strangers bound by a single, terrible secret. Lorado looked out the window, her reflection pale and broken. Somewhere deep inside, anger began to grow. She didn't know it yet, but nothing in her life would ever be the same again. Rain fell hard over the city that night. Lorado sat in silence in Min-ho's car as it moved through the empty streets. Every drop against the window sounded like a heartbeat. Her brother's last words still echoed in her ears, "Little sis." She wanted to scream, but her voice refused to come out. Min-ho sat beside her, cold and quiet, his face turned toward the window. His hands were steady on his knees, as if he had not just ended a man's life, her brother's life. The car stopped outside a private building near the harbor. He turned to her. "Come inside," he said softly. Lorado looked up, tears running down her cheeks. "You think I'll walk anywhere with you after what you did?" His jaw tightened. "If you stay here, they'll find you before morning." She didn't understand. "Who?" "The people your brother worked for," he said. "The ones who sent him to spy on me. They will think you know what he knew." She stared at him, shaking her head. "You're lying. Themba wasn't a spy. He was a police officer." Min-ho's voice turned sharp. "Exactly. A police officer who gave the names of my men to our enemies. 3 of them are dead because of him." Her stomach turned. "So you killed him for doing his job?" "I killed him because he betrayed me," Min-ho said quietly. "In my world, betrayal means death." She looked away, choking on her tears. "You're a monster." He didn't answer. He simply opened the door and stepped out into the rain. For a moment, she sat frozen. Then, with shaking hands, she followed. Inside the building, the lights were dim. It smelled of wet leather and smoke. Lorado sat on a chair by the fire while Min-ho spoke to his guards in Korean. She couldn't understand all the words, but she caught one. "Mulgogi, fish." That was mafia slang for spy. He turned to her again, calmer now. "Lorado," he said, "your brother's death has made you a target. His contacts will think you have his files, his evidence, his recordings. They will come for you." Her voice cracked. "I don't have anything. I didn't even know what he was doing." "They won't believe that," Min-ho said. "You need protection." She crossed her arms. "From you." "From everyone," he replied. "Including me." He sat down across from her, his eyes dark and serious. "There's one way to keep you safe. But you may hate me more for it." She gave a bitter laugh. "Impossible. I will make you my wife," he said. Her laugh stopped. "Excuse me. It will be a secret," he continued. "No ceremony, no pictures. Just a legal document. As my wife, you will be under my protection. No one will dare touch you." She stood up sharply. "You're insane. You kill my brother, and then you want to marry me." His voice stayed calm. "It's not about love. It's survival. Once you are part of my family, the mafia code protects you. Without that, you will die before sunrise." Lorado backed away. "I'd rather die than be your wife." He rose too, his tall frame casting a shadow over her. "Don't say that so easily," he said softly. "Death isn't peaceful, Lorado. I've seen it too many times." She met his eyes, cold, unreadable eyes that hid storms. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he said something that made her heart twist. "I can't undo what happened," he whispered. "But I can keep you alive. That's all I can offer." Morning came gray and heavy. Lorado sat in Min-ho's office, staring at the papers on his desk. The words swam before her eyes. Marriage contract. Her hands shook as she held the pen. Min-ho stood beside the window, his back turned to her. "I won't force you," he said. "But if you walk out, I can't protect you anymore." She swallowed hard. "Why do you even care if I live?" He didn't turn around. "Because your brother once saved my life," he said quietly. "Before he betrayed me." Her breath caught. "You're lying again." He faced her then. "Believe what you want." His expression was unreadable, but his voice carried a strange sadness. She couldn't tell if it was guilt or manipulation. Maybe both. She looked down at the papers again. Her mind screamed at her to run, but something inside her, fear, confusion, maybe the ghost of her brother, made her pick up the pen. Her hand trembled as she signed her name. Min-ho came closer, his voice low. "From this moment, no one touches you. I swear it." She looked up at him, eyes full of tears. "And what do I call you now?" "Husband, killer, He didn't answer. Instead, he reached out slowly and took the paper from her hand. Their fingers brushed. His touch was cold, but it sent a strange current through her body, something she didn't understand, something she didn't want to feel. Later that day, Aisha arrived at Lorado's apartment. Her eyes were wide, her voice a whisper. Lorado, do you even know what you've done? Lorado sat on the couch, her hands clasped tightly. It's not real. It's just a piece of paper. Aisha shook her head. Nothing is. Just paper, with people like him. I did some asking around. Kang Min-ho isn't just rich. He's dangerous. Lorado stared at the floor. He said he'd protect me. Protect you. Aisha stepped closer. He killed your brother. Tears burned in Lorado's eyes again. I know, but now his enemies want me too. What am I supposed to do, Aisha? The police won't believe me. The mafia already knows my name. Aisha took her hand. Then leave. Run away. Tonight. Lorado pulled her hand back. It's too late. They're already watching me. She looked toward the window. He said if I tried to escape, they'd find me first. Aisha frowned. You're not a prisoner, Lorado. But Lorado knew she was. Maybe not behind bars, but in a cage made of fear. 2 days later, Min-ho brought her to a mansion outside the city. The house stood on a hill surrounded by electric gates and tall walls. Guards in black suits watched every corner. Lorado followed him through the halls. Everything was too clean, too quiet. The floors shone like mirrors. This will be your home now, Min-ho said. She looked around. It feels more like a prison. He gave a small smile. A safe prison, then. He led her to a large room overlooking the ocean. You'll stay here. If you need anything, tell my assistant. She turned to him. And what do you need, Mr. Kang? He paused by the door. For you to stay alive. Before she could reply, he left. Days passed in uneasy silence. Min-ho was always working, always guarded. Sometimes Lorado would see him in the garden, speaking softly on the phone in Korean. Other times, she would catch him watching her from across the room, his face unreadable. At night, she lay awake listening to the sound of waves crashing against the rocks below. Sometimes she thought she heard footsteps outside her door. The fear never left her. But what confused her most was the strange pull she felt toward him, the man she should have hated. One evening, she found him in his study. He was sitting behind his desk, reading papers. The light from the lamp touched his face, making him look tired, almost human. She hesitated at the door. You never sleep, do you? He looked up, startled. Neither do you. She stepped closer. I can't. I keep seeing his face. Min-ho stood, his eyes softening. You think I don't see it too? She blinked. You don't even feel anything. He walked around the desk until he was standing in front of her. You don't know what I feel. For a long moment, they stared at each other. The air between them felt heavy, filled with everything unspoken, anger, pain, something dangerously close to sympathy. Then she stepped back, breaking the moment. I didn't come here to fight. I just wanted to ask, why me? Why go so far to protect me? He hesitated, then said quietly, because I owe your brother more than you know. Before she could ask what he meant, his phone buzzed. He answered in Korean, his face darkening. Keep the gates closed. They're watching again. When he hung up, he said, stay inside. Promise me. She nodded slowly. But when he left, curiosity won over caution. Later that night, unable to sleep, Lorado wandered back into the study. The rain had started again, tapping softly on the windows. The room was dark except for the dim glow from the desk lamp. She meant only to grab a book, something to distract her mind. But as she reached for one, her eyes caught a folder half hidden under a pile of documents. It wasn't labeled, just plain black. Something about it made her uneasy. She opened it. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Her family, her mother outside their old house, her brother in uniform, and herself, years younger, walking to school. All taken from a distance. All long before she had ever met Kang Min-ho. Her blood ran cold. The folder slipped from her hands, the pictures scattering across the floor. At that moment, the door opened behind her. Min-ho stood in the doorway, his face unreadable, his eyes catching the light. Lorado turned slowly, fear and disbelief written across her face. Why do you have these? She whispered. For the first time, he didn't have an answer. The storm had passed, but the mansion still felt cold. Lorado hadn't spoken to Minho since she found the photos. Every time she saw him, the image of those old pictures returned, her family, watched for years by a man who claimed to protect her. She no longer knew who he really was. For days, she kept to herself. She barely ate. When he tried to speak to her, she gave short, empty answers. He didn't push. He only watched her from a distance, his face unreadable as always. But inside, she was burning with questions. Who took those photos? Why? And most of all, what did Minho know about her family? One night, Lorado couldn't take it anymore. She went back to the study. The folder was gone, but she had memorized a name from one of the documents inside, Chairman Han. The same name Minho had once mentioned in anger, his rival from Seoul. She opened Minho's laptop while he was out on a call. The screen demanded a password, but she noticed a drawer slightly open beneath the desk. Inside were files stamped with Korean characters and English words that made her blood freeze. Han Enterprises, Africa Division. Subject: Lorado Mbeki. She pulled out the papers and flipped through them. There were financial records, lists of shipments, and a note that said, "The child must not know." Her hands trembled. The child, that meant her. A sudden noise made her turn. Minho stood in the doorway. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. "You shouldn't touch those." She held the file close to her chest. "Why do you have this? What does Han want with me?" He took a slow step forward. "Because Han's business once involved your family." Lorado frowned. "What are you saying?" Minho sighed and walked to the window. The rain had started again outside, tapping against the glass. "Your father wasn't just a mechanic, Lorado. Years ago, he worked in Asia, in Busan, Hong Kong, sometimes Seoul. He dealt weapons, smuggled guns through the ports." She stared at him, her heart pounding. "That's a lie. My father was a good man." He turned to face her. "Good men don't fake their deaths." Her breath caught. "Fake his death." Minho nodded slowly. "He worked with Han. When the police began closing in, he disappeared. Everyone thought he was dead, but Han knows the truth." Lorado shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "You're lying again. First my brother, now my father." He stepped closer. "I don't lie about death, Lorado." She backed away, her voice shaking. "You think I'll just believe whatever you say? You killed my brother." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Minho's expression changed, a flicker of pain, quickly hidden. "I didn't know he was your brother," he said quietly. The words hung in the air like thunder. Lorado froze. "What did you just say?" "I ordered the hit," Minho continued, his tone heavy. "Your brother was leaking information to Han. I didn't know his name, only his code, Shadow Bird." Her knees weakened. "You're lying." He looked straight at her. "I wish I were." She took a step forward and hit him on the chest. "You murdered him," she cried. "You stood there and watched him die, my brother." He didn't move. He let her strike him again, her hands trembling with rage. "If I had known," he said softly, "I would have stopped it." Her tears came hot and fast. "You can't fix this, Minho. You can't fix what you've done. I don't expect forgiveness." "Good," she spat, "because you'll never have it." She turned and ran from the study. That night, Lorado packed a small bag. She didn't care where she would go, anywhere but here. She slipped through the mansion's back gate just before dawn, her heart beating fast. The guards were changing shifts, no one noticed. She walked down the wet road until she reached the main street. She planned to find Aisha, to tell her everything, maybe go to the police. But a black van slowed beside her. Before she could react, two men in suits stepped out. "Miss Mbeki," one of them said in a calm voice. She froze. "Who are you?" "We've been sent to take you to Chairman Han. He wishes to speak with you." She shook her head. "No, I'm not going anywhere with you." The man's smile vanished. "You can walk or be carried. Your choice." Before she could run, something sharp pressed against her arm, a needle. The world went dark. When Lorado woke, she was lying on a couch in a large office filled with glass walls and city lights. Her head throbbed. A tall man in a gray suit sat across from her, watching her quietly. Where am I?" she whispered. He smiled gently. "In my building." You're safe. His voice was calm, deep, almost familiar. He looked older than Minho, maybe in his late 50s, but there was something kind in his eyes. Who are you? Lorato asked. I've waited a long time to meet you, the man said softly. You've grown into a beautiful woman, Lorato. She frowned. You know my name. I know more than that, he said. I know the sound of your laugh. The way you cried when you were small. I know you hate the smell of smoke. Her stomach tightened. How do you know those things? He stood and walked closer. Because I was there, before I left. She shook her head slowly. You're lying. He smiled sadly. Lies are what kept you alive. She stared at him, her mind refusing to believe what her eyes were seeing. But something about his face, the shape of his jaw, the curve of his mouth, it felt like looking at an older version of herself. No, she whispered. The man reached into his coat and pulled out an old photo, her family, years ago, standing outside their small house. Her mother, her brother, and him, the man before her. I'm your father, Lorato, he said. I never died. Her world tilted. That's not possible. He stepped closer, his voice breaking slightly. It was the only way to protect you and your mother. Han Enterprises was collapsing. The police wanted me dead. The mafia wanted me alive to keep selling guns. I chose to disappear. Lorato felt her knees go weak. You left us to suffer, she said, tears running down her face. You left us to bury an empty coffin. I know, he said. And every day since, I've regretted it. She took a shaky breath. Why now? Why bring me here? His tone darkened. Because Minho has crossed a line. He's trying to destroy everything I built. And now that he's married you, he's using you to get to me. That's not true, she whispered, though even she wasn't sure. Her father leaned closer. He told you I was his enemy, didn't he? He told you lies about me. Lorato's voice was small. He said you were a criminal. A shadow crossed Han's face. Criminals built this world, my child. Only the powerful survive. She shook her head, backing away. I don't want to be part of this. He reached out gently. It's already too late. You have my blood, and his enemies will use you whether you like it or not. Lorato stared at him, trembling. You're not my father. My father died a good man. Han smiled sadly. Then remember him that way. But the man standing here is real. And I will not let Minho have you. Before she could speak, the doors opened and guards entered. Take her to the east wing, Han said. No one sees her until I say so. Two men grabbed her arms. Wait, Lorato shouted. Please, just let me go. Han's face softened for a moment. One day you'll understand, he said quietly. Blood always calls you home. As they dragged her away, she looked back one last time. Han stood by the window, hands behind his back, staring out at the city lights. Her mind was spinning, her brother dead, her father alive, and the man she hated might be the only one who could save her now. Outside, thunder rolled again, echoing through the night. Thank you for watching. Your love and support keep our stories alive. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to K Heart Dramas, where every story beats with passion and destiny.